r/AskReddit. What are you still salty about? In elementary school, there was a pencil machine in the front lobby where you could get pencils for 25 cents. There were also special pencils that had stars on them. If you got one of these special pencils, you could take it into the office and get a prize. One day, I decided to get a pencil. I put in my quarter and out popped 2 pencils. And one of them was a special pencil. I went into the office and told the lady at the desk that the machine gave me 2 pencils and one of them was special. She proceeded to say that the machine shouldn't do that, took the special pencil, and didn't give me a prize. That was 19 years ago, and I'm still pissed. Edit to answer some of the more common questions. The prizes were stuff like the fancy erasers that didn't actually erase anything, fun-size candy bars, stuff like that. Think 5 to 10 tickets at Chuck E. Cheese's. I probably didn't go to school with you. This happened in Michigan. Apparently the pencil machines are a common thing. This happened in either 2nd or 3rd grade, so the time was probably closer to 20 to 21 years ago. Fuck, that makes me feel old. The main lesson I learned was to withhold irrelevant information and lie if I know the truth might negatively affect me. Good work, random office receptionist. Some people in petty power positions are truly a disgrace for humankind and probably will ultimately be the ones to blame for the diminishing of our entire race. Edit. Thank you so much for the upvotes and the prizes, everyone. My first Reddit gold. Wow. To answer some of the comments, I'm of the opinion that, while we need rules to organize complex social systems, those rules can and must be put aside sometimes by applying common sense and empathy to them. If a rule forces/allows you to treat your fellow human like crap, the rule must be changed. Humans beings before systems further. I love how this comment is about a pencil. I had this thought precisely because of the pencil. That someone working in a school can deny a kid that sort of good feeling about a little harmless mundane magic probes, that they are unable of appreciating the feelings of that kid. Not only that, but they are either denying them, not noticing them, or crushing them on purpose. Either of the options makes them a rather waste of a human person. And it made me think of the vast amount of petty people holding petty jobs with petty responsibilities like this, and doing this type of move repeatedly during all their lives in countless situations. And then I thought, yep, we are damned fuck petty gatekeepers, their lack of kindness and their bootlicking rule following codes. The fact that I spelled mayonnaise correctly in my 4th grade class spelling bee, but the teacher claimed I didn't and dismissed me. I had one in the 3rd grade and proceeded to win in the 5th and 6th grades as well. The unfair disqualification in 4th grade ruined what would have been a 4-year streak. Edit. I'm sorry so many of you have also experienced spelling bee injustice. Before I knew English, I had a teacher tell me that my name is spelled with a Y when it's extremely obvious that it's spelled with an I. Of course I didn't know better, so I didn't say anything, but it seems really stupid that she thought that, since she was born in Australia I think. My mom told me she was wrong, but to me, it was her word against her word. That's just not how names work. Even if you were called Ryan, which is normally spelled with a Y, it's up to your parents to decide. That my 6th grade teacher refused to believe I had no idea the dude sitting behind me was copying my answers on the test. This happened to my best friend. Someone copied his answers, and he got detention and the kid didn't. My friend has never gotten in trouble at school, and the kid who copied was like 90% of the way to getting expelled. Oh, I remember this one alright. Table would hold 4 students and our table was ways loud. Not because of me. 15 meters, mind you. It's not like I never got in trouble, but I liked this class a lot. I used to like the teacher as well, until he wanted to set an example. Everyone knew that if this one other guy was made to leave class again, he would be in big trouble with the principal. The teacher visibly doubted sending him away, but then shifted his example 1 chair to the left and sent me out instead. Didn't do nothing. Still hear them all laugh because it was obviously crap. Coming second in a school trivia competition 21 years ago, I had the correct answers onto questions that would have sent us to the national champs and was vetoed by the other 3 shitheads on my team. That's a life lesson right there. Being right is almost never enough. You also have to be able to convince others that you're right. That hits hard. I was a co-founder of a startup, and during an early strategy meeting, I made a bunch of suggestions that the other founders aggressively dismissed. A year later, we got some funding and hired a CEO who was an expert in the field, and he suggested the exact same things, which they praised as brilliant. They later sheepishly remembered that I'd suggested the same ideas and apologized. That really taught me a lot. Being right is rarely enough. You need to understand why you're right, and you have to be able to sell your ideas. At least they apologized. Also, never give your best ideas easily. And when you do, make sure that gets registered somehow, that you suggested that. There are a lot of assholes who get promoted on top of others' work and ideas. My mom decided that she didn't want Christmas presents one year and made sure to tell us, me and my two brothers. I suggested to her instead that we donate what we would have spent to charity in her name. She said she was fine with that if that's what we wanted to do. So that's what I did. I sent her a nice little card in the info for the charities I donated to, so she could see that her decision helped some good organizations out. Mom was pissed. Why didn't you just send me a gift card if you weren't gonna buy me anything? You ruined Christmas. Now, I love my mom. By that point we had a total of one really nasty fight, and that was several years before. She was fine growing up. She was fine most of my adulthood except for a suicide attempt that I got to call the ambulance for from the other side of the country. Long story. I'm accustomed to buying my mom decent thoughtful presents. So when she accused me of ruining Christmas for her, I was distraught. I sent her a screen cap of the conversation we had and circled where she said she'd be fine with my decision to donate in her name. Her response? I don't remember that. I deleted those texts. I lost my shit. Told her it's her own fault for raising me to do as I'm told, and next time just don't say shit if she's gonna change her mind and not tell us. And then we didn't speak for 3 months. This was 2.5 years ago, and I have not gotten over it. On a 4th grade math test we had to make a shape that had only 4 sides, 1 set of parallel lines, and only 1 right angle. There were probably more requirements, but I can't remember. I remember almost crying at my desk and spending 20 minutes on that one question, while constantly telling my teacher that it wasn't possible, but according to her it was. And the next day we went over the answer key, and the answer had 2 right angles. Yo, I had something like this happen to me. We had a paper sheet with tons of math questions. One of them was impossible and the whole class knew it. We went up to our teacher and she said no questions. Next day we were reviewing it and she said it was impossible, but still marked us all wrong. Edit. A lot of people were bugging me about punctuations, so I fixed it. I was at a house party in college and we had to take off our shoes. Some bitch walked home in my leather knee-high boots and I've never gotten over it. Edit. For clarity, she left her dirty ass shoes behind for me to go home with, so thanks I guess you shoe thieving wrench. I've mentioned this before, but when I was about 8 or 9, we had a big project in school which ended with us writing a story. I spent fucking hours on this thing. It was going to be the best book ever. It was only a matter of time before it was snapped up by some publisher, and then it would be the talk of the Scholastic Book Fair, no doubt in my mind. It absolutely had to be in by the time school finished for Christmas, so my teacher could mark it over the break. So I stayed up until about 10 o'clock at night for about a week beforehand working on it, which, you know, is the closest thing you get to an all-nighter when you're about 9. It was my magnum opus. I got back to school in January to find that A, she had lost it, B, she was accusing me of not handing it in, and C, because mine was the only one she couldn't find, she decided to call me out in front of the class about it. I ended up locking myself in the toilet because I was crying so much. Worst still, it later transpired that when it turned up after all, she marked it as though it was handed in late, and the bitch still only gave me a middling grade. Fuck you, Mrs. Harding. Fuck that teacher. In a similar vein, when I was 17, in high school, I was dreaming of becoming a published author one day. I had always enjoyed storytelling, and I would always make a special effort to do well in school when it came to creative writing. At some point during the year, our professor asked us to write him a short story of about 1,000 words. I was very excited because I had tremendous respect for that man and loved his classes. I really wanted to impress him. Wrote a sci-fi short story that involved an ice planetoid turned into a digging site for underground resources. Workers lived in stacked boxes apartments and traveled in spheres shooting through a network of large above ground tubes. The plot involved the protagonist uncovering an artificial structure under the ice, then being immediately fired and sent back to Earth in a single-person shuttle. It was strongly implied that the single-person shuttle was just a way to dispose of workers who knew too much about what the corporation was really digging for. Anyway, it wasn't very good, probably a little derivative. I did consume a lot of sci-fi books, movies, games, etc., and nothing more than you'd expect from an average 17-year-old. But the professor handed it back to me without having even marked it, asking me to turn in another one on very short notice, this time without plagiarizing from some popular novel. I told him I didn't, asked what book he thought I'd plagiarized, because if a book told that story, I honestly wanted to read it, swearing the story was purely my own. I even admitted that I was likely influenced by a lot of things, but still came up with that one organically. He never heard my plea, never even named the book, or gave me more of a reason why he thought so poorly of my work. Lost a lot of respect for him, and a lot of interest in his classes after that. I'm still pissed about it, and it's been over 20 years. Edit. I really appreciate all the positive comments, encouragements that maybe the story was too good for him to believe it was written by a 17-year-old, and the suggestions for me to write it again, or turn it into a novel. I think what bothered me then, and still does, is that he never really wanted to discuss it. It felt unfair and unjustified. But talking about it today, and reading your messages did help. It's definitely time I let go of the resentment. Especially since there's a happy end to all of this. I ended up becoming a teacher myself, and the memory helped me remember to never dismiss my students' creativity and always nurture their ideas. I also ended up quitting last year to focus on writing, and I'm now a published writer. I'm somewhat broke, comes with starting out, I guess, but I'm happier than I've ever been. So, this event wasn't enough to turn me away from my dream, thankfully. Edit #2. A few people have been asking where to find my books, and other questions about them. I write in my native French, and my first novel is available in bookstores in all French-speaking countries, as well as online stores. Unfortunately, I'm yet to be translated, fingers crossed for the future. So, for the majority of you, I'm sorry for now. But I truly appreciate the thought. If you read French and are interested, drop me a PM, and I'll gladly give you the title. Not trying to turn this into advertising. My second novel should be coming out in February 2021. It was supposed to be this fall, but the pandemic pushed every back a few months. This reminded me of what I'm still salty about. In 4th grade I was bored during the summer, and had thought of an idea for a story. It was about a set of quadruplets that solved mysteries, lol, and my intent was to make it a chapter book. I wrote the first 3 chapters on our Windows 95 computer, and printed them out and proudly gave them to my mom to read. She later sat me down, and told me about plagiarism in 4th grade terms. I was so upset that she didn't believe that I wrote it, that I gave up on the whole idea, and as far as I can recall, never did any creative writing outside of schoolwork again. Thanks, Mom.